Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and happy Black History Month. Welcome to another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And she's aglow and she has a halo because she is excited about her upcoming event, which we're going to talk about at the end of this first interview. So for those of you all who are interested in signing up for the National Black Book Festival, we are at 38% as far as our registrations. So I would not delay if you're planning to do that. And also the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards process. That doesn't end until June 3rd. So you have until then. But I would do my book early if I were you. Then you're not waiting till the last minute trying to make sure it gets postmarked and all that. And then it'll slip your mind. So it's a really good process. It's a good award. It's good to have on your resume, on your website, to be a finalist or a winner. So we're going to bring on our first guest. And she has a historical fiction book, which is perfect for Black History Month. And for the next several shows, we have a number of historical fiction authors coming up in the next month and a half. So you're going to see a lot of history, and we want to welcome Shara Moon to Black Authors Matter TV. Oh, we need to unmute, and if you can.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm on mute. Hello.
Okay, welcome to the show. Yeah. So how are you doing? And
I'm all right.
How
I'm
is
doing
your
good.
book going? Show us a copy of your book. It's called Let Us March On. Do you have it with you so you can put it?
I sure do.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Let Us March On.
That cover looks a little familiar. What
Yes,
would that be?
It does. And the words, I'm assuming, are from the Black National Anthem.
It is.
On until victory is won. So did you pick the title or was it a process?
It actually was a process. So when I was reading Lizzie's memoir, I realized that each chapter she had, well, she titled each chapter, and the last chapter she had was Our New Day Begun. And I have to admit, I was like, that's weird. Where did that come from? And so then I realized when I read the end of the memoir, she had a snippet of the National Negro Anthem at the just a piece of the poem.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, that's brilliant. I'm going to make that the title of my book. So for the longest, the title of the original manuscript was Our New Day Begun. Then the publisher was fine with it in the beginning. And then as we were developing the, story, getting farther along in the process, I guess my editor told me sales doesn't really think that title works. And I explained to her, I was like, no, I have to have it. And this is why. And it's part of her memoir and all the things. And she was like, could you just come up with a couple of, new options? And so then I was like, you know what? I want to stick true to what she was trying to do. And that was pull in a piece of the poem. And so as I was going through, I was like, I pulled a few others, but Let Us March On really stuck out to me. And so that ended up being the title. And they all loved it. So it was great.
Well, I think that's a testament to, you said it was the sales team. Mm-hmm. Who recognized that maybe the title wouldn't work. And it goes to show the importance of selecting a title. It's not just about, this sounds cool. What is it that's going to resonate with readers? So did the sales team give you a reason why they felt that the title wouldn't work?
Not really a concrete reason. I think they just didn't think that it would resonate with readers. I don't think they knew where it came from. And, you know, like I said in the beginning, I wasn't even clear until I read the poem. And then I was like, oh, that's where she pulled the line from. And I opened up, like, the epigraph in the start of the book opens with that piece of the poem. So I figured if the people, you know, if the readers don't know where the title is from, they'll read that piece and they'll like, oh, there it's from. But they still were like, let's
now, what was the original title?
Our New Day Begun.
Oh,
Let Us March On. Or no, I think that line comes before Let Us March On.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Because, you know, see, I know the song and I was singing for y'all, but I don't want to make y'all cry right now.
I know it's because I have the book right here. It's Facing the Rising Sun of Our New Day Begun. Let Us March On till victory is won. Yes.
Okay. So did you have some other picks from the poem, like Facing the Rising Sun, or?
Yeah, I did. And I actually shared some of my ideas with my author friends first before I brought it to the publisher. Okay. And hands down, everyone, you know, gave me their top 3 choices or their top 2, but Let Us March On was almost always the top choice. So I was like, I think we got something here.
Well, it's also a testament to being with a major publisher and having, there's a lot of people involved in the process before the book ends up on the shelf or published and then distributed on the shelf. So when you self-publish, you may or may not have different people, you know, telling you, giving you feedback on your titles.
Yeah, many people don't. A lot of people with self-publishing don't have those people around them to help them to make those types of decisions. You know, when you're self-published, you're like, oh, this sounds like a great name. And we don't know whether it's going to
exactly. And you know what? Fun fact, I used to self-publish romance under a pen name whole lifetime ago.
Okay.
So now tell me this. Knowing what you know now, compared to back then when you were choosing your own titles, are there any books that you would have maybe named differently now that you know what you know?
For sure. For sure. A lot of it, like because like you said, when you're self-published, you don't really have anyone to kind of interfere. So the first thing that came to my mind, you know, I'm like, oh, that sounds like a great title. Let's run with it. You know, I didn't vet it. I didn't research, or I was like, oh, that sounds nice. And in hindsight, I'm thinking some of my titles probably, it was some of my book covers too. I remember one time I realized I need to like get it together because I wrote contemporary romance. One of my covers were so off the wall, they thought it was paranormal. I was like, no, this is not paranormal.
Well, yeah, the title covers, because I look at the cover of my first book. The very first cover I had, even though, it was hot, it was pretty, but I felt like it gave the wrong message as to what the book was about. Yeah. And it was really hard to promote the book because people thought it was an erotica book, and it was not an erotica book.
And then the reviews come in and they're like, I didn't like this book.
Right, exactly.
There was no, you know.
Because it's not what they thought it was.
Because I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I judge a book by its cover. And so, you know, very like rarely, I think we jump to the blurb. If the cover is good, I'll read the blurb. But then if the cover is good, sometimes I'm like, I want to get right in. And then you're like,
that's what the book's about. Talk
Yes. So Let Us March On. It's a historical fiction based on a real life woman named Elizabeth McDuffie. And she was the maid in FDR's White House during his 4 terms in office. Her and her husband. And her husband was his personal valet. And essentially, you know, she went in as a maid. But during her time there, she really made sure that she used her position to bring up the issues in the Black community to the president and the first lady and try to, like, you know, have them kind of make a difference, interfere, like use their position as well as the president and first lady to make some changes for some of the population. You know, there were some things they could do, some things they couldn't, but it still was worth her presenting the issues and seeing what happened. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, Eleanor Roosevelt, because that's who the book is about. Doing
No,
those.
it's mostly about FDR.
Well, I mean, that was his wife, though.
Right.
So she did a lot of innovating, you know, pushing the envelope kinds of things. She seemed to be fearless, especially as it came to African Americans at the time.
Yes.
Because she was the first, I don't know, white person, definitely woman, to fly with the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah.
And that kind of gave them some legitimacy, and that helped them as they were trying to get more action and more utilization during the war. And they were underutilized, but that kind of helped them.
Yeah, I think I read I saw a documentary once of the Roosevelts, and they said how they were trying to keep her from flying with them because, you know, their stigma, their stereotype that we don't want nothing to happen to the first lady. And she was like, nope. She got on the plane and flew with one of the pilots.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna be fair. If I were protecting the first lady, I would have said that about anybody. I don't care what color they were. I'm like, those people, we don't know if those people know what they're doing.
I know, even though they're in the army.
Yeah. Well, also back then, the planes they were flying in compared to what we have now, although we've lately had these private planes having situations, accidents of late. This last one we had today or yesterday. The planes were very I don't want to say archaic, but compared to now,
no, you're right.
More archaic, you know, and compared to what we have now.
During my research, I got to read up on Amelia Earhart, and because she was a friend of Eleanor Roosevelt, and she would visit the White House. Even Lizzie McDuffie mentions her in her memoir. And I remember reading once that the first lady would sneak off and fly with Amelia Earhart, you know, and they would always be like, you know, frantic about it. But that's how I think like progressive and like just kind of, you know, out there that Eleanor Roosevelt was.
She was fearless for sure.
Yes.
Now, I had a question about, you know, the book, The Butler, that was, you know, turned into a movie. This is kind of like the companion in a way to The Butler. Did that come into play when you were considering writing this book?
It's so funny you mentioned that because one of the things the publisher asked me was, what would they have a term for it? I forget. I think they call it like, what's your comp title? And I guess it's like your comparable title.
Okay.
And so I was like, first thing, The Butler. It's like The Butler meets, you know, I don't even know what I said, but I was like, it definitely, like The Butler came to mind. It was, you know, a female maid instead of the butler. And I definitely kept that in the back of my mind as I was writing. And, you know, I try to write as if I'm writing a movie, you know, like it all kind of just plays in my head and I write it down. And so having watched the movie as well, like that was, you know, that was a fun comparison to play with.
Yeah, because that's what I thought about when I saw the book. And now, as far as the cover, what was the thinking behind that? It's really a beautiful cover.
It is a beautiful cover.
Thank you. I was lucky enough because I know some authors, you know, who are traditionally published, they do say, depending on the publisher, that they don't get a lot of say in the development of their covers.
That's quite true. There are authors out there who are not happy with their covers, but this is what the publisher came up with, and this is what they were going with, and they weren't.
And they a lot of the times they're like, oh, this is what will sell, or this is what's trending, so they kind of follow that mold. But my publisher, my editor, thankfully looped me in, and they asked me before they started designing, what did I see? And so I was so excited because I love, you know, like cover design. And I had two concepts for them. And the first one, I won't even bother telling you guys, it was kind of, when I think back at it, and they tried to emulate it, I was like, this is silly. But the second one was the Washington Monument, like the Lincoln Memorial.
The Lincoln, okay.
Yes,
the
Lincoln Memorial.
Because I had just finished a DC trip for research for my second book, and I got to go back to the Lincoln Memorial, stood, where Martin Luther King stood when he gave his speech.
It felt like magical almost, huh?
It did.
I live in the DC area, and when I walked up those steps, and then I turned around, I was like, I'm standing where Martin Luther King was standing. I mean, it was like a feeling came over me.
It is. And then when you look out, like where he stood, and when you look out and you see the Washington Monument and Lincoln's behind you, like, I don't know, it just kind of like gives you this whole different vibe. And I was like, I want the cover to have some aspect of the Lincoln Memorial, and I want a woman there. I wanted her to look like she is, like kind of going towards something, and so that was kind of like the elements I kind of like told them. And I was just so glad the designer brought to life what I was envisioning.
It's very nicely done. Now, did you decide, or who decided for her back to be turned as opposed to a profile or the front?
Yeah, I think that was the designer's choice. And I almost think because I kept telling them in the book, like the story starts off with Lizzie being in her early 50s. And so I think maybe the model, because even from the side profile, I'm like, I know Black don't crack, but she kind of looked young. And so I think the choice to keep her back to the cover was probably because they couldn't find someone who would look mature enough, maybe.
Okay. Now, you said the book starts in her 50s. Do you like go back in her past? Does it go back and forth, or the storyline?
No, not necessarily.
Storyline?
Yeah, no, I don't do like really any flashback scenes.
Okay.
I do one reference of when she first meets her husband. She kind of tells that story, but she kind of tells it in like a memory. And then when she talks about the Atlanta race riots and her being a witness to that, that was also told like as if it was a memory.
Okay. So you said she had a memoir, or
yes, unfinished. She wrote her memoir. She started it.
Was it published?
No, it wasn't, unfortunately. But it's available now because where her memoir was in the Robert Woodruff Archive Library in Atlanta. And I was lucky enough to be in the room and actually read her memoir, but they had since digitized it. So now it's available online. So anyone can go now and actually see the pages and read her memoir.
Oh,
why did you choose this particular woman?
It was by accident, to be honest. Like the book that I'm working on now is the book that I actually should have been publishing now. But when I was working on that story, I needed someone that had a into the White House and into the president. And I was sharing this with a friend of mine, another author of historical fiction. Her name is Kaya Alderson. And I was telling her,
she's been on the show.
Oh, yay, yes.
A couple of times.
Awesome. Yeah, Kaya is awesome because I was just kind of like, okay, this is where I'm kind of stuck. And she sent me an article about the McDuffies. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, these are exactly the people I need for my character to leverage so she can get a seat at the table with either the president or the first lady.
Right.
But then as I was reading more about Lizzie McDuffie, and I think when I read that she had that unfinished memoir, that's what really triggered me to be like, she needs her story told because she was pretty awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many stories of Black women in history that are now being told from 100 years ago, or maybe 80 years ago, turn of the century to now.
That are going undiscovered, doing great things,
and are now being told. So that's really, really great. There's actually, I think, is your book part of the librarians, the personal librarians?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I think they're reading it in April.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought so. I had seen your book because they released their books for the year in January, and I thought I had seen your book among them.
Yes, I was excited to be included.
Yeah, she really Tammy Smithers, she really is all in on the mission for that.
Yes.
And it was a very creative concept. And it was really centered around one book, which was Victoria's Christopher Murray's book, The Personal Librarian.
Right.
It came out
Yes.
years ago, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it came out, I read it. But and then she just kept going. Tammy just,
and I love that. I love they have a
really
whole
nice
book club centered around
and they
historical.
travel and they really can help, especially the book sales for the early part of your book tour. They can really help.
Yeah, they've been super supportive.
So what are some things about your main character in your book that you want people to know? Don't give away too much because you still want people to read the book, but
yes,
some of the things that you might think are really interesting about her. You told us a few things, but
I think one of the main interesting things that a lot of people don't know is that she auditioned for the role of Mammy in Gone with the Wind, the movie. And
I know that. That's interesting.
That's a real
yeah, she was actually like called from I think the producer or the director, executive producer, someone really high up in developing the movie asked her to audition, and she did a couple of screen calls, they call it, or screenings. And she got so far that a lot of people thought she had landed the role. She was getting correspondence, and I think I read some of them congratulating her on winning the role, and it was well deserved. Even Margaret Mitchell, the author of Gone with the Wind, congratulated her, only to turn out that she didn't get the role. But she was
so was she
very humble about it.
Was she an actress, or how did she like?
She wasn't. She loved to what they call recitations. She loved to do like spontaneous recitations and entertain. And I think she might have build her reputation for being that kind of entertainer. But a formal, actress, no, she didn't have any of that. And there's actually a photo I found in an old newspaper that had her, I guess, when she was in her audition clothes. She had like a head wrap or do-rag or something. Okay. And she was looking really serious.
A kerchief. I think they used to call it a kerchief on your head. They didn't have do-rags back then. They weren't called that anyway.
It's actually kind of fairly new.
It is fairly new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if I have that photo, I'll share it. I think I've shared it once, but I just always when I look at that, I'm like, wow, she looks so different than a lot of the photos I've seen of her, where she's very bubbly. You could tell just from her photos, her personality was one of personable, charming, the life of the party. But at this photo, she's serious. She's this, but I think the character was very strict and
was very serious, very straightforward.
Right.
Sassy as much as she could be for back in those times.
Right. She had a lot of lines.
Yeah. Right.
So
she did. So it always makes me wonder how she would have played the role, and how different the role would have been if she had played it. But either way, in her memoir, she does say that the role went to the better actress, so she had no love lost.
Okay. Yeah, we had Rashonda on the show to talk about her book, The Queen of Sugar Hill, about Hattie McDaniel. So
I have that in my TBR list, but I was excited when I saw that she was getting her own book, because Hattie herself went through a lot. And what was interesting to me when I was researching a little bit more about the role, it's kind of you go down a rabbit hole when you do research. So, I'm researching the movie and trying to kind of understand too why Lizzie McDuffie loved the book. She loved Gone with the Wind. And I've seen it, I haven't read it, and I'm just still kind of I don't get it. But, as I was doing my research and I was learning more about the struggles that Hattie McDaniel went through, even after she won the Oscars, was, wow. I mean, she wasn't even getting support from the NAACP, who, criticized her for that role.
Yeah, even though, especially after she won, it was very tough for her. Well, Cheryl, we're at the end of our time. Can you show your book one more time and
Yes.
let us march on? And it's wherever books are sold, and it's
Yes. Audiobooks as
Link
well.
to the book in the chat. And so I encourage all of our readers to make sure you click that link and purchase this book and leave reviews. I say this all the time on the show. There
Thank
are
you.
readers who will not touch a book until they read the reviews. So if you love the book and you feel that other people should love it as well, leave a review.
Yes, please. Thank you.
that is true.
Yes.
Okay, well, have a great night, Shara,
Thank you,
and
ladies. Have a
continue
good
success with the
night.
book.
Thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you. And
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Okay,
Bye.
good night.
Good night.
Okay, but between now and our next interview, Rhonda's going to talk a little bit. She's going to spend 2 3 minutes talking about her event that is rapidly approaching.
I can't believe how much it's rapidly approaching because I looked at the
No.
calendar and realized this thing is next week.
Yeah, I feel you. Right now, I'm like 9 months away from ours or something like that, but it creeps up on you,
Yeah.
because it gets to the summer, and then the summer is like gone. By then, it's like here. So
Yeah. After the summer,
yeah,
it's boom.
So tell us about. I know you talked about it before, but
Yes,
just
this
give an
is the Black
update.
History Month Literary Weekend. It's going to be February 20th through the 22nd, right here in the DMV. And it's 3 days of literary and history celebration. So on February 20th, we will kick off the event with a celebration, a meet and greet at Urban Grape Winery, which is a Black-owned winery that only opened in the DMV a year ago. But they have been so supportive of the DC area, and the DC area has loved them right back. So I actually had an opportunity to meet the owner, who's actually from Boston, and he took the chance of opening a winery right here in Washington, D.C., and it's done very well. So in talking to him, I told him about this event, and he invited us to bring our authors over. So on February 20th, as I said, we're going to do a kickoff where all of the authors are going to be in there, and we're going to be able to sample Black-owned wine brands as well as get to know the authors of the event. So it's a true Black History Month experience. We'll have 12 authors as well as our special guests, and our special guest will be Nalena Kai, as well as Dr. Regina Jennings. And Dr. Regina Jennings is, and she's been on the show before.
Yeah, she was one of the original Black Panthers.
Exactly. She's one of the original Black Panthers, and she still considers herself as a Black Panther. So I'm looking forward to her telling her story. So that's happening on February 20th. And believe it or not, that event is already at capacity. I only had 150 spots. Those 150 spots were gone. And then the winery itself sent it out to their email list. So I'm just not sure there's going to be any room for anybody else. But hey, you can try. Just don't get mad if it's too crowded. Now, on February 21st, we're going to be visiting 2 middle schools in Bowie, Maryland. And then after we visit those schools, we're going to move over to Barnes and Noble bookstore and in the Bowie Town Center. And we're going to have a free writer's workshop. And then right after the writer's workshop, we're going to do another meet and greet book signing. So the authors are basically going to take over the entire store. So that event is almost at capacity. So we have about 150 people who have RSVP'd, and there are only 200, and the capacity is 200. So we're really, really excited about that as well. So hopefully everybody in the DMV will come on out, meet the authors, purchase a book, and then we're also having a book drive. So we've partnered with a wonderful organization called Books Breaking Borders, which works to eradicate illiteracy in the DMV area. And so we're going to have a collection box at all 3 events, at the winery, at Barnes & Noble, and then at the Saturday event that I'll tell you just a second. But you can either purchase a book from one of the authors, because we do have a number of children's authors who will be a part of the event, or you can just purchase a book from Barnes & Noble, or you can bring a gently used children's book from your home and then drop it into the collection box. Our goal is to collect 100 children's books to donate to Books Breaking Borders. So like I said, I'm looking forward to that event as well. That one will be on Friday the 21st, starting at 4:00, and we'll be there until 7. So we'll have the workshop for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then the rest of the time will be dedicated to book signings. So this is going to be amazing, guys. So I hope you'll attend. Now, our signature event is the Ivory and Cream Affair Jazz Brunch, which will take place on February 22nd at the Harborside Hotel in Oxon Hill, Maryland, which is right outside of the National Harbor if you've ever been to DC. Now, this event is going to be something special. It's going to be hosted by comedian Christopher Columbus, who is the founder of the Greek Comedy Tour. We're going to have live music by Brinkcore Entertainment, which is a 10-piece band. This isn't just background music. They're actually performers. So they're going to have a full band with real instruments, not a DJ, but real instruments. We're going to have backup singers and a lead singer. And I'm telling you, you're in for a treat. We're going to have a silent auction, and you're going to be able to hear from all of our authors. As I said, there are 12 different authors, as well as the two guest speakers, which, like I said, will be Nalena Kai and Dr. Jennings. And we are going to be awarding the winners of our 8th and 9th grade essay contest. I announced those winners yesterday on the Horizons Author Lounge, but you're actually going to be able to hear those students' essays at the event. And on top of that, we are also awarding the winners of our For the Culture Book Awards, which we launched this year. And those authors are absolutely amazing. And I'm really excited because all of the authors who won, we had a first, second, and third place prize winner. They will be at the brunch. So I'll be able to award them with their prizes in person.
Okay. I saw that posted on your page.
Yes,
this weekend.
There's a lot
going on. Yeah, and you're gonna be tired. So hopefully you'll be rested and for next week's show. And also my 2025 edition of my book on debt-free college, 101 scholarship applications, what it takes to obtain a debt-free college education. The 2025 edition was released a couple of weeks ago. And I've donated 5 copies to Rhonda's event for her students. So we're
I'll tell you, those kids love that book. That book is so well received. So I'm looking forward to giving the kids this book this year.
It's all about helping students be debt free. So we're going to bring on our next guest. And it's funny, this guest is kind of funny the way I ended up inviting her to be on the show. Because I have been Facebook friends with her for a long time. And, she's always posting. And I don't know if she left her computer or not, because she's not clicking the camera or the sound. So maybe there we go. Okay, she's now clicking in. But she posted about books. And I got in my mind that she was an author because she's always, we authors post about our books. That's what we do. I thought she was an author.
About our books.
And she's not an author, but she's an avid reader. And I posted how many books I was planning to read for this year. And she put me to shame with her number. Because
you read?
I said 30. She said some ungodly number in the hundreds. So
you read 100 books this year?
What number did you say, Jennifer, that you're reading for this year?
I set my goal for 350 books this year.
So what I want to know is how in the world do you do this? Are you a speed reader? Are you listening to the books? And
Well,
how do you decide 350 books that you want to read for a year? Because a lot of books get released, but deciding what you want to read, how do you do this?
what I do, sometimes I go by Amazon, sometimes I go by authors groups, sometimes I go by readers groups, and sometimes I go by TikTok. But most of the time, if I'm scrolling through Amazon and I see something interesting, if the cover pops out, or if the synopsis sounds good, or if the author is basically on Facebook and they're constantly promoting their book, and I'm like, ooh, I love this cover, or they'll do a little sneak peek and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna read this. And that's how I pick what I'm gonna read.
Okay, well, but
how do you have time to read all of these books?
Yeah.
I mean, is it a split between?
I go by readers groups.
I think something happened with the audio, because you didn't freeze up, but the sound. Can you talk for a minute?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Okay.
What I do, because basically I'm retired, so I basically, read the majority. Sometimes after I do my housework and stuff, I'll read for the majority of the day. And sometimes I'll read at night too. Most of the time I read at night. So.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of books. That's a lot of stories. I'm sure they run together at some point.
Yeah, sometimes I take a break, and I didn't read as much after my mother passed in May of 2021. So I didn't read as many books. So like near the ending of 2021, I was like scrambling to meet my Goodreads goal, which I did. Because that year I had set the bar to like 700 books, and I did it like on the last day of 2021.
I'm still astounded, because
me too.
Even if you break it up between audiobooks, ebooks, and physical books, that's still a lot of reading.
Yeah, I do. I've recently, in the past couple of years, got into audiobooks. I was used to mostly do ebooks and physical books, because if I go somewhere and my family gets on me all the time, I'm never without my Kindle in my tote bag, or at least 2 or 3 physical books everywhere I go.
Yeah, well, I'm with you, because I take books with me. Like if I'm going to the doctor, or if I'm going to be going somewhere and sitting for more than 10 minutes, I have a book with me.
I'll be reading.
I don't like wasting
a book,
time.
or I like to do audiobooks, because I tell Gwen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I like to listen to audiobooks if I know I'm going to be on a long drive, or if I'm going to be exercising. I want to be listening to an audiobook. I've even gotten to a point, if I know if I'm really concentrating on something at work, and I can listen to a book while I'm working on it, because it helps me to just kind of decongest a little bit, or decompress a little bit.
I know you've been telling me about it, and now Angela Anderson said this is what she's in the comments in the chat. She says Jennifer is amazing. She is the queen of books, and she enjoys books in all 3 formats. So you got a fan out there, at least one, probably more. Now, are you in any book
Jennifer too? Because Jennifer, we told Jennifer about the Black History Month Literary Weekend, and she said, I'm not going to be able to make it because they have a huge event, which I'm sure she's going to tell us about. But she said, I'm still going to promote your event.
Oh, okay. Now I didn't know that you had an event too. Oh, someone else said, Myra Cook says she barely reads one book a month. So my goal for this year, because I'm in two book clubs, my goal for this year was 30 books. Because between promoting authors, producing this show, and being in two book clubs and writing, that's about what I can do. That's a stretch because I normally will read two books a month, more or less average. So I said if I do 30, then I'm more. And I'm actually at a good place because I started off strong. And so hopefully I'll make my goal. But see, I will put a book down. So see, that's the thing.
I can't bring myself to put a book down. Even if I don't know how Jennifer feels, but even if I'm not that crazy about the book, I still have to finish reading it because I really want to see it through.
Not me.
Are you a DNF?
What do you think, Jennifer?
I'm gonna have to say, if the book doesn't grab my attention by the third chapter, I will put it down. But sometime in the future, I'll come back to it.
Yeah, because sometimes it's at chapter 4 is when it picks up. You know, like right after you put it down, then people say, "Well, it picked up." So then I have done that where I started a book and then finished, and then I'll go back, like you said, in the future, and actually it was a good book. It just started a little slow because it doesn't have to like jump off the page of the first chapter, but it needs to go somewhere. Something needs to happen for me. Something needs to happen. But every reader has a different standard and different things they like. Now, are you in any book clubs?
I'm in quite a few book clubs on Facebook and authors groups.
Okay.
But I'm not in the physical one.
Okay, where you like read a book a month and you all talk about it, are you in something like that?
Yeah.
Now, what's the Goodreads goal? Because I'm really not on Goodreads. I mean, my books are there and people rate them there. Not all of my books are there. I sometimes go there, but it's not like a destination for me, you know, a frequent destination for me. So what's the Goodreads? Is there book reading challenges on are there book reading challenges on Goodreads, or what's going on with
They recently started, but I set my goal this year for 350 books. So I'm already 74 books in.
Okay,
I'm already 74 books in.
Okay, so you're already ahead of the book a day because it hasn't been 74 days.
She made me feel bad because I thought I was doing something about 3 or 4 books in January. But
yeah, she's reading a book a day. I'll never be able to do that. I just have I'm juggling too many balls. I'm doing too many different things. And each one requires a different like focus.
Well, what are your favorite types of books to read?
I was gonna ask her that next.
I love reading romance, contemporary romance. I love reading urban romance. I love reading erotica. I love reading women's fiction. I love reading some historical romance and some historical fiction.
Okay, so you don't read mystery. Do you like mysteries or?
And I read some romantic suspense, but
okay.
My goal for the year too is to read outside of the genres that I normally don't read. So I'm gonna try to find a mystery in there. I can't do a thriller because I'm the type that after I read it, I'll dream about it. So I can't, really do a thriller.
Okay, yeah, I can understand. Some people, some of those thriller writers write them a little too well.
Yeah, especially like I don't really like, and I read a couple. I don't like serial killer books. I don't like a book where there's a serial killer and they're plotting and planning how they're going to kill people and cutting them up and having them in the basement tied up. I don't like. I've read a couple Those are the kind of books that can make you have a nightmare.
Yeah, so I try to stay away from them. People have been trying to get me to try them out, and I'm like, I don't know, because I know me, and I'll be jumping in my sleep after I'm finished, so I stay away from a lot of thrillers.
I understand.
Yeah. Now, romances tend to be somewhat short in terms of length of book. So I can see getting through a romance a day because they tend to be, they're not 400 pages,
popularity over the years. The novellas, the books that are about 100 pages or less.
Yes, they have increased in popularity. So when did you were you an avid reader as a child, or is this a hobby you adopted as an adult?
I've been an avid reader since I was like 3 years old. I had to start school early for a speech issue because instead of me talking like right now, I used to sing my words together like the commercials on TV. So I had to start school early. So the speech therapist was telling my parents, well, have her read aloud a book or whatever. And we're going to work with her at the school as well. So that's how that came about. And then when I was 8, the summer that I turned 9, my mom's best friend gave her a huge trash bag full of the old Harlequin Silhouette Desire books. And I read that whole bag the whole summer.
Oh,
that whole summer.
Really? At 9 years old?
8, 9 years old. Because at the time it was just me and my brother. So I was the, nerdy type. I used to play school by myself and stuff like that. So when I discovered those books, they really did take me down a rabbit hole. And then I got my first library card. So I was reading Danielle Steele by the time I was 11, 12 years old. Okay. But I didn't start reading African American romances until like my mid-20s. And that's when I had discovered, Brenda Jackson, Beverly Jenkins, and all of that. And I just been hooked. And I'll be 53, Lord's willing, in September. So I've been reading.
I see. But I guess, reading as much as you do, you kind of have a discriminating eye for stories. So what are some things that you feel make a successful story? What are some things that pop up in your mind?
Definitely the storyline, a good storyline, a good plot. That's basically it for me. And like if it's a romance, a good, romance meeting, a meet cute, or whatever. That's what makes it for me.
Okay. Well, we got a lot of comments. This conversation is eliciting a lot of comments. Lydia said her goal is to do 50, but this is a new acronym. They have different acronyms for reading. The TBR is to be read. So somebody has DNF. That means did not finish.
Right.
And so Angela Anderson said, I will DNF a book. Me too. If it doesn't grab me, I'll give it 50 pages. So more or less. Because chapters can be different lengths, Some books have short chapters. And I think short chapters make a book go faster. But a good story makes a book go faster too. But I will DNF a book. And I have no guilt about it. Because I've already paid for the book. So if the author gets the credit for the royalty for the sale, and I get,
you have a point there. You bought the book, so the author gets the money. They're going to get their royalty. Yeah. It doesn't matter whether you finish the book or not.
Yeah, and I don't post bad reviews. Well, usually. Rarely do I post a bad review. I only
Jennifer, do you
post
post reviews?
a good review. Yeah, do you post reviews, Jennifer?
Yeah, yes, I do. I haven't posted any in maybe like a week or so, but I do post them. I do reviews for Romance in Color that Wayne Jordan started, so I'm a senior reviewer with him.
Okay.
I was reviewing on Amazon, and they banned me from reviewing because they said I had suspicious reviewing activity, which I didn't. Which I
What does
didn't.
that mean, though?
I guess they were saying that I was getting kickbacks or whatever, which I wasn't. And I tried to fight it and whatever. So I just said, well, I'm not gonna worry about the reviews or whatever. And so I was sitting talking to my mom one day, and she was like, well, you shouldn't let that stop you from reviewing. You should do your own review blog. And I was like, okay, I said, I'll think about it. So I thought about it for maybe a few weeks, and then I was like, maybe I will start one. So that's when I started my Jenny's Cozy Book Corner review blog.
Okay.
So and I started that May of 2020, because that's when Amazon banned me from reviewing, because I had an author, and the only reason I knew about it was I had an author message me on Facebook, and she was like, did you take my review away? And I was like, no ma'am, I didn't. And so I went on my Amazon account and I saw all my reviews were gone.
Wow.
And that's when I, reached out to him and I asked him, why was all my reviews gone or whatever. But that was the year I had read over 1,000 books, because they had they had sent me an email saying I could get 3 months of Kindle Unlimited for 99 cents. So I took the deal, and that's when I discovered so many indie authors and stuff. And so I was just going through their catalog and just reading all their books, and I was leaving reviews, but they were like short reviews, just saying how much I enjoyed the characters and the stories and stuff. And so when that happened in May of 2020, I was like, well, I didn't take the review away. So when I found that out, I made a post on my Facebook page, and I told all the authors, I said, if y'all are missing reviews, it's because Amazon banned me from reviewing. So if I review anything, I will, review on Goodreads.
Well, did you actually lose those reviews? I mean, for instance, did you type the review directly into Amazon so you didn't have a copy of the review, or do you keep copies of all your reviews?
I didn't keep a copy of the reviews. I was doing them through as soon as I finished the book, I would type my review up on Amazon, and then and submit it like that.
Wow. I didn't even know that was a possibility, but I don't post that many reviews.
Yeah,
but...
see, Jennifer had those people thinking she was getting kickback because she was, reviewing.
I wasn't getting a thing, just the pleasure of reading that book.
How would they know that? I mean, how would they deduce that? Because you're not gonna say, "Hey, I'm getting a kickback." You're not gonna post that anywhere. So what would make them draw the conclusion? I didn't even know that was a possibility to get banned from reviewing. So I mean, not book reviews. Now I heard about people reviewing products, and I've heard, I don't know, and it's probably true, that some companies will like have fake reviews, like on Yelp and places like that. They'll flood their competition with bad reviews. So I've heard about people doing that, and I'm like, you have to do all that. You're not gonna have a good result. That's all. But do you read somebody asked that?
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking a question. I was just going to ask, so now if there's an author who would like for you to review their book, like I'd love for you to review my books, what should they do?
They can reach out to me on my Facebook, my personal Facebook page, which is Jennifer L. Copeland, or they can go to my Jenny's Cozy Book Corner website, which is www.jennyscozybookcorner.wordpress.com.
Mm-hmm.
And just do it that way, because I'm always visible on Facebook.
Yes, that's why I thought you went off.
I'm always visible. If I'm not sharing my grandkids or my kids, I'm definitely sharing authors' books and wishing them a happy release day on their new releases, audio or ebook or paperback or whatever.
Yeah, see, in my mind, I thought I had seen your name on a book. See, I had all conjured up all kinds of stuff in my mind just because you post so much. And I just knew you were an author. But I think it's good to have readers on, because people who are avid readers can really give a good perspective and help some of the authors out there. Now, do you charge for reviews?
No, ma'am. I do them just because I love to read.
Oh, now you really
not at all.
Yeah. Maybe you should charge something. That could be a new side hustle. You don't have to charge a lot, but with the amount of books you read, you could be racking up some real money. I'm just saying. Since they banned you anyway, they already banned you on Amazon. So what do you have to lose?
I know my sisters and my two sons, they said the same thing. And one of my sisters was like, well, really all of my sisters, they're like, well, as much as you read, you should step in the author space. And I was like, I don't know about that. I said, I think I'm a better reader than a writer. And I actually, like, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I did try to pin something down, and then I read it back, and then it's still stuck in my journal. And I was like, no, I'm going to stay out that author space and going to be in this reader space. I think I'll try better in the reader space.
I think sometimes one of the mistakes that we as people make is taking something that we enjoy doing and then turning it into a job. Sometimes we want to do something for the love of doing it. So if you just love to read books and you love to review books, then no, there's nothing wrong with sticking to that, because as soon as you start trying to monetize it and making it into a job, it's going to feel like a job and you're not going to want to do it as much. So sometimes it's okay to do things because you just love to do it.
Yeah, I just love to read, and I just love to support authors any way I can, because I love to see y'all shine. And if y'all gain a new reader because I've either shared your book cover, your cover reveal, your link to your new book, your new release or whatever, and if you gained a new customer, a new reader, then that's the joy in it for me.
Amen.
And that makes me happy.
Love that.
Well, we love that you've been on the show and to share your reading career. It's almost a career. As much books do you read. Somebody asked, did you speed read? That's what there was a question about.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Do you speed read?
No, ma'am. Depending on the length of the book, I can finish maybe 2.5 books in a day's time. Sometimes 3. It just depends.
But you're a pretty fast reader. You're just a fast reader.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. And when I posted on my Facebook how many books everybody was reading, your number was definitely the highest by far. So I thought, but I think I had already booked you to be on the show when I did that. I think, and you just responded. Okay, so but I'm glad we got a chance to meet finally. Get to chat. And now when I see you on Facebook, I'll know that you are not an author, but you just love supporting authors. And we appreciate that so much. Because people aren't reading as much as they, the younger generations aren't as into reading. And so, the avid readers are really greatly appreciated. So now that you've said that you review books, I might consider sending you mine, but we'll see. And
Okay. No problem. I'll be glad to. Just let me know.
Okay,
Because
I will.
I'm always at home unless I have a doctor's appointment or something like that. But I'm always at home, and even if I go somewhere, I always have my book and a Kindle with me. So
Love it.
That's great. Well, I will be reaching out to you soon.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for being on the show. We really enjoyed
thank you so much.
conversation.
And we appreciate the support.
Because we need more people like you.
Yes.
And thank you so much for having me.
Okay.
Have a great night.
Okay, she's reading a book a day. God bless her. I don't even know if there would be enough books. Let's say I had a mind to do something like that. I wouldn't have enough books that I really want to read to be able to do that.
The problem is finding a book that you actually want to read.
Mm-hmm. So, but she's a jewel, because we need people like that out there reading our books. Okay, our next guest is someone who is not a stranger to the show. In fact,
she's been on the show so many times, but always brings something new every time she comes on.
She does. We have her on about once a year, but she was on our very first show that we did in July of 2020. And so we hadn't had her on. We didn't have her last year at all. She was on in December of 2023. So she's always doing something fresh and different. And so I wanted to have her on to talk about the things that she is doing now. She has started publishing books, but she's doing some other stuff that I'm business related. And she was just named honored for being a small business in Las Vegas, right? Where you live?
Yeah.
So Joylynn, everybody knows Joylynn. She's been around as an author, publisher, every speaker forever since I've been in this space. That's been 25 years. So welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Hey, Gwen. Hey, Dr. Rhonda. Yes, we got in this game together, and we still playing. We still playing.
You're right. We used to have the same publicist back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Did anybody I know? Did I know them?
What was the name? Oh my goodness.
Ella.
No, before Ella. It was Jackie.
No, Jackie was yours. Ella was mine.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, but it was the same time then. I thought
yes.
Too. Okay.
Ella Curry, Ella D. Curry.
Yeah, Ella's still around though, because Ella's right here at the DMV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still around. And Jackie? What was Jackie's last name?
Oh shoot! You got me.
Is she still in is she still in the business? Like, is she still?
I don't think she's still in the business though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing these days, Joylynn?
Oh my gosh!
It seems like you're always pivoting. You're kind of like us in that we're always pivoting. We're taking what we have and the foundation that we have, and we pivot and add another dimension to it. We don't get away from what we're doing.
Right. So
pivot.
And not really. I look at us, we're innovators, we're disruptors. I don't really feel like we're pivoting as much as we're shifting. We're using what's in our hands for how we need to use it in that moment. in that, what the time frame, whatever is going on in the news, whatever going on in the industry, both the publishing industry, both business in general. And just, again, really going back, and that's what we have to do as business owners. We have to take inventory of what we have. Just because it's not working today doesn't mean it's not working tomorrow. But if it's not working today, go put it back in the chest, in your arsenal, and get something that is working today. But we've been fortunate enough where we haven't had to rebuild. Like you said, Gwen, We've got a lot of stuff in our arsenal. We've got a lot of stuff in our chest. We're 25, 30 years in this game, and it's just using what's in your hand, using what works, knowing when to move away from something.
I would enjoy what Joylynn is saying is absolutely correct, because she's the reason why I released my book, Trust. Trust actually was it was actually a part of a anthology. And we, for some reason, I don't even know why Joylynn and I were on the phone that day. That was the first time we had talked in years. I think it was because we had talked at the National Black Book Festival.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, because I hadn't written in a while, and she's like, you need to get back in it. You have books. You already have stories. All you have to do is just repurpose some of your anthology. I said, you're right. This was a good story. So I took the story and I dusted it off and rewrote it and revised it in a few places. And that was how Trust came out. Sometimes it's good to have those author friends. Yes, we're going to talk and we're going to kiki, but then we're also going to motivate each other. So because of Joylynn, that was one of the reasons why I started writing again, because we had that conversation.
Yeah, and I'm the queen of repurpose. I will repurpose content. One of the things I tell people, whether they're the readers, just tuning in to see what's going on in their favorite author's life, or it's authors, it's publishers, you already have books written. You already have content written. Let me circle back. I have different branches of business, but the main branch is called End of the Rainbow Projects, Inc. And when I started the company, I had the aphorism, how long will we continue to wait at the end of the rainbow before realizing that we, in fact, are the pot of gold? Our thoughts, our ideas, our concepts, our gold mind is our gold mine. What I did, and this is what I advise clients to do, go back to when you first got on social media. This can be a long, daunting process. So if you start now, moving forward, you got it done. But go back to every post you've made that added benefit and value to someone's life, that got the likes, that got the shares, that got the most engagement. When people email me a question and I answer it, I copy and I paste it in that same document. I put my social media post. I answer questions publicly. I don't do that DM me, ask me. No, I want the world to know what my knowledge looks like, what my wisdom looks like, what my experiences look like. When you answer questions publicly, you're showing your receipts, not your ego. Because when it comes time for people to cut a check for your services, they don't want your humbleness. They want receipts.
Yes.
So take everything. Every time you answer a question, somebody else probably has that problem too. Create it in a document, put it in a document, and then categorize it into subject matters. I just got a 3-book traditional publishing deal. That 3-book deal is based on social media posts, blogs, articles, as well as newsletter content. I repurpose content that I was just writing to add value, because I'm a resource before I'm an author. I'm a resource before I'm a publisher. Become a resource before you become anything else, any other titles. Add the value, add the benefit. I took that value, I took that benefit, and I repurposed it. And now I'm getting paid for it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you always have been. You always have been on the cutting edge of whatever, or you cut the edge. That's what I tell people. I don't like to follow a trail. I like to make a trail. Because if you follow a trail, by the time you get to wherever, middle way of the trail, everything's gone already. It's already been acquired or adopted or the first mover has already, you need to be the first mover or at least the second or third mover in whatever you're doing. Not just copy what somebody else is doing. You need to be a first mover yourself. And so I like to innovate. That's what And one of my greatest strengths is execution. But and if something is not working, I will set it aside. Or sometimes it has to be refined. Yes. Something, it didn't work the way you did it, but the concept is right. You just have to work with refining whatever it is.
Yeah, and sometimes you find it's just not for you, so you can sell it to someone else. I've done that before. I've had an idea, I've had a thought, I had a concept, and I'm like, you know what? This isn't in alignment with my dreams, vision, and goals, but it's the bomb. Yeah. I can't just let this sit. So you sell it.
I've done that too. Yeah. I've done that too. I've just given it to people sometimes. Just if even book ideas, I will, if I think somebody else is on a certain path with a topic, I'll give them an idea for the next book, because if you're going to be an author, you have to keep writing. It sounds fundamental, but you have to keep writing. You have to keep releasing material, content. Now, this show, we have so much content from this show that it's challenging just making it in a more usable form sometimes, because everybody likes short content now. So I've actually gone back to the beginning of the show, like the first, I'm like 2 years behind. but the interviews that we've done, they're just so they're so powerful. But now I had to create a reel on the interviews, and then that's additional content. So just be on the lookout. Our YouTube channel is really going to blow up in terms of the reels, because we've interviewed 700 people. Well, over 700 people, not 700 interviews, 700 people in the 4.5 years we've had this show. And we have every interview saved, archived. So, and I had to learn a new talent, how to create a reel myself. So I had to learn a new trick. Yeah. Rhonda does this stuff all the time. I see her doing stuff online. I can't do reels,
but see, I also use AI, and I know a lot of authors think that AI is a dirty word, but it's not. I use I'll give you guys a hint. I use a platform called Opus Clips. So whenever I do a show, I put the link into Opus Clips, and it will actually make 1-minute clips for me and post it to my social media for me. Okay. So that's
I've heard of Opus Clips.
Yeah, and let me talk about something Gwen said earlier. She's like, everybody likes short content, and everybody likes long content that adds value and benefit. Exactly. So one of the things you do on YouTube, you go live and you stay on. You see some lives are 2 to 3 hours. That's intentional, because YouTube's going to send people to you for those 2 and 3 hour lives, and people are just hop on randomly. They may stay, they may not. It's still considered a view. And then what you do with that live is you break it up into those short form content that will then bring the people back to your long content. So we've got to stop thinking people only like short content. We're letting whoever's been keeping count of everything in this universe tell us people have short attention spans. People want quick. People want. And then when you allow them to feed us that, then you fall into that category. But people like long content that is adding benefit and value to their life, that is going to transform their life, that is going to add benefit and value to their personal development and growth, physical development and growth, emotional, financial, spiritual development and growth. So it's just those little quick sizzles that you get. But go live 4 hours. 4 hours.
Well, this show is live 2 hours, and we every show is saved.
I mean on YouTube.
Yeah. Now, I do have in my list of things to do this year is to go live on Facebook and YouTube.
Yes.
To add YouTube to the live. Just haven't done it yet. We do YouTube after the fact. We post it to YouTube after the fact, and then each individual interview is posted after the fact.
Yeah, go live on YouTube and let them send you an audience. And then let me talk about with what Rhonda said about AI. I think there's a difference when you're talking AI with authors and publishers. There's AI for content creation. There's AI for business automation. And so there's a difference. Me personally, I choose not to have an AI footprint at all because I am a content creator. And what I think a lot of content creators and businesses owners don't realize is that it's a insurance risk. So for insurance purposes, I choose not to have an AI footprint for anything. We live in a Sue happy universe. Like everybody.
Let me. I agree with you on that. I absolutely agree with you on that. When I say I use AI, I still create my own content. However, I use AI, like I said, when I do a show, I use AI to break up the show for me. So this is still my content.
Yes, I get that. But what I'm saying is I don't want an AI footprint on my computer. If anybody was ever to sue me for anything, you would never find AI. That's just something me personally. I live in Vegas. I might take risks, but I don't gamble. And so I'm not willing to gamble.
That's me
Too many people trust me with their content. Too many people trust me with their content. Too many people trust me with their words. I don't want to jeopardize it in any form by having any type of AI, any type of chat box, any of that stuff. When Facebook first started using the chat box, a lot of people don't realize, but you could Google it, they had to shut that down because the bots formed a language that only they knew. The humans programming didn't even know the language. So they had to kill that project. These bots are very, 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 very intelligent. And it's just not something, it's not otter, any of that. For insurance purposes only. I don't want the footprint for insurance purposes. I get it,
and I would say you have to be judicious in what you do. There are certain things that I'm not going to use AI for, but unfortunately, it's not going away. It's going to be a part of our lives now. But you do have to be judicious in how you. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not. When it comes to being an author, no, AI is not going to write a book for me. AI is not going to edit my book for me. There are certain things that I'm not going to do with AI, but at the same time, I do too many things to not use technology to help me in doing what I'm doing.
I use technology as well. But what I've learned to do is also use my resources. So for example, I have 2 new hires and I have 2 interns that are paid, but I don't pay them. I tap into my resources so that I don't have to say, oh, I wear too many hats. And that's the issue I see with a lot of authors, which is why for the IBPA, the Independent Book Publishers Association, PubU 2025, I'm doing a 4-hour pre-conference to help people tap into these resources that are out here so that you don't have to be wearing so many hats in your business, so that you can take a young adult, you can take a new adult. So we got our young adults, ages 13 to 17. We have our new adults, ages 18 to 25. Here in Las Vegas, well, actually here in Nevada, 70% of those communities aren't employed. And so we have a program here where there's a program, they get paid intern, they get the direct deposit. We get to utilize them. And then if we decide we want to keep them, then there's another level to the program. Well, then they'll pay the first $10,000 of their salary. And then if they do really well and you want to train them or give them a raise, there's another 10,000. So I'm about resources, employing these young folks, employing people in general when I can, so that I don't have to wear so many hats. And it's just a matter of, like I said, when I promoted this show, we always feel like there's so many gatekeepers, and we feel like we've got to knock down doors, break glass ceilings, get a seat at the table and all of that, when we're spending our energy in the wrong place instead of building and minding our own business. I want to run into DEI real quick, because I know that's a hot topic. And when you think of DEI and you think about the Target, you think about the Walmart, you think about the Amazon, who almost bankrupted my company with our first book, by the way. So I understand what it's like to deal with these companies. One return can bankrupt you. Dealing with distributors, dealing with retailers. One huge return. Real quick, Amazon ordered 2,500 copies of our inaugural book that came off of our PTP press imprint. Within 30 days, not even 30 days, they returned about 97% of those books. Less than 90 days. And distributors are doing this everywhere. Bookstores get a credit, and they want to max out that credit and order all of these books, not really gauging who their true audience is and how many of these books are going to sell. And what these bookstores don't realize is that when they return those books, they are hurting these authors and these publishers. Another prime example, I did a print on demand with Ingram. I priced it above industry standard when this book first came out. And then everybody would start talking about the price. Oh my gosh, the price isn't industry standard. Well, I'm not industry standard. I'm not Simon & Schuster. I'm not industry standard. And we're allowing the industry standard corporate publishers to create industry standard that doesn't fit small independent publishers. So I said, okay, let's test this out. Let me put this price down to industry standard. We had our author going into an event. The event ordered 26 copies of the book. By the time that event ordered 26 copies of the book at industry standard, I owed Ingram 8 cents. They returned the books, and now I owe Ingram $300. I say all this to say, we keep hearing with Target, with Walmart, with Amazon, if we boycott, you're going to hurt these Black businesses, and they can't remove these things from the shelves overnight. And I said, I agree, this can't be done overnight. But how many nights have y'all had? Y'all spent all this energy trying to get y'all stuff on Target shelf, trying to get y'all stuff on Walmart shelf, trying to get Amazon to sell this and the other. And you could have taken that same energy, come together. You have your own distribution. You have your own Target. You have your own Walmart. But we spend so much energy trying to get through these gatekeepers, trying to cut. Why do you want to cut your hands up breaking through somebody else's glass ceiling? Why do you want to be wearing a cast trying to kick in the door to somebody else's office? Why you want to go get a seat at the table when you can build your own? We so busy knocking on the door over here to get in somebody else's. We got a whole building over here. So I say all that to say, I'm all about resources. I'm all about doing the due diligence, doing the work, and finding out what is out here for us and utilizing it. And that's one of the reasons why hey, IVPA, I have to do this for my under-resourced authors. I have to do this for my under-resourced publishers. I'm tired of hearing people say they are a struggling artist. They're wearing too many hats. They're wearing themselves out when there's so many resources out here that they're just not taking advantage of and tapping into because they're so busy trying to get through the gatekeepers.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how interconnected these things are either, because
Yes.
I had a conversation with my sister recently, and I just used my book as one of my books as an example. And she said, well, I don't order from Amazon. I get my books from Barnes and Nobles. And I said, because I publish through KDP, like a lot of authors do, which is Amazon's publisher, I said, Amazon is still going to get paid
Yeah.
Because they're the publisher. So that when you get it from Barnes and Nobles, I get less money. That's the only difference. If you order from Amazon, I get X amount. If you get it from Barnes and Noble, because Barnes and Noble has to get it from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
You look confused, Rhonda.
I apologize, Joylynn. I look. Your friend Trey Johnson is in the chat asking crazy questions, and it just neglect it distracted me.
That's what you were.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at either one of y'all like that.
Okay, I said, okay, but that's if you and I publish through Amazon because it's convenient.
It's convenient, and that's what we like, convenience.
It has drawbacks. I do have a certain amount of control. One thing I like is you don't have to order a gazillion. You don't have to order a gazillion copies of your book. You can order a small amount and just reorder, and your price is the same whether you order one book or 100 books, whatever.
Yeah, because they use offset. Yeah, they use digital. They use digital versus offset. I say
that the choice between using Ingram Spark, KDP, or if you want to go traditional publishing, it's really up to what are your expectations as an author, and what do you want to do? Because some people will say, well, I don't want to have to pay all these other people, so I'm just going to do it for free on KDP. And then people don't realize that there are certain limitations by only publishing on KDP. There are certain limitations if you decide to do Ingram Spark. So you've got to do your research and then do what works best for you and what matches with the expectations that you have for being an author.
Yeah, set your goals, because a lot of people do want convenience. I want a large profit margin. I got kids going to college. I don't know if an injury could happen where I'm taking care of my husband, a car may break down. So I weigh, do I want convenience or do I want profit margin? So I go to my local printer and I get digital books printed for the same price that Amazon would print them. That only extra step, I have a larger profit margin. And yeah, I do have to make post office runs, but that's when we have to decide, do we want to build our own?
I don't depend on my book sales for a living. So that's
exactly. That's why I said your goals are very important.
Right.
I've had clients who come to us, they don't want to sell. There's people who say, well, I would do this whether I got paid or not. Be honest about it, because if you would do it whether you got paid or not, honey, blog it. Don't put it in a book. Don't go through the trouble and put no price tag on it. Blog it. So you're lying to yourself or you're lying to us. Blog it if you would do this whether you got paid or not. Don't put a price tag on it, because when you put a price tag on it, that's a business transaction. Baby, you in business. So if you would do this thing whether you got paid or not, please stop putting a price tag on it. Now, I've had clients who said it and meant it, and they would get the money they would spend on marketing, instead of spending it on marketing, promoting, getting people to buy it, they would just go print copies and give it away, give it to the schools, give it to the shelters, because they meant it. They meant it when they said, I would do this whether I got paid or not. They meant it when they said, I don't do this for the money. If you're not doing it for the money, blog it for free, or stop saying that, because again, you're lying to yourself or you're lying to us. So you have to know, what is your goal? Why are you doing this? I call it the 7-layer onion. Keep asking yourself why. Well, I want to help people. Why? Because I want to say, why? Get down to the core of that why, and then just be honest about it, because I promise you can give your stuff away for free. I promise you the money you're taking for marketing, promoting, you could print copies and put them into the hands of the people who you want to have them. So it is about what you want to do. And if you want this to be a business, then you have to decide, do you want convenience or do you want a business in which you are 100% control of, in which a bookstore can order 100 copies of your books and you can hop on the phone with them and say, hey, why don't we try 10 copies? 100 think, what's the this type of book? How many copies does this type of book, does this genre typically sell? But see, when we use Amazon and when we use Barnes and Noble, whatever. We don't get to have that conversation. It's a store orders 100 copies of your book. Barnes and Noble, well, Ingram, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon,
Well,
they just ship
a lot
those
of
books
people get
out.
paid. Yeah,
Yeah, they ship them out. And then when that bookstore returns 50, 26, you owe them money. So you have to decide, do I really want to run a business? Do I really want to build a business?
This is what
is my goal and how do I want to come about doing it? And what is my profit margin? How much money do I want to make? So
this is what we were talking about at the top of the show, is that you do have to do your research. We were talking, I don't know if you saw it, but the first guest was saying that she used to be self-published and she would just say, oh, this title sounds cool. And that's the title she would go with. But then when she got with a publisher and the publisher's sales team said this title wouldn't work, they had done the research. We don't always do that research. We think this cover would be cool, or this title would be cool, but we don't know. We haven't done the research to see whether that's actually going to resonate with our target audience.
Exactly. So, like I said, you got to be honest with yourself.
You do. Now, I want to clarify,
be honest with yourself.
I make money on my books. I just don't make a living with my book sales.
Yes.
Difference. I make money on all of my books that I sell.
Yeah.
But it's not my source of income for a living.
It's really about how much money you want to make.
Right.
It's about how much money you want to make. Yeah. That's what I said. Even if you're not making a living with it, but you're making money with it, it's still about how much money do you want to make? I'm good with this. I'm good with that profit margin, or I'm not good with that profit margin. I want this profit margin. Therefore, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. So again, it's about your goal.
Time, but you mentioned something. I want to get a clarification on it before we go. You talked about returns, because a lot of people don't realize that, if your book is on the shelves of all these different stores, and a lot of authors, that's in their minds, that's their goal, is to have their books on all these shelves. But if they don't sell, they get returned.
Yes.
And so then that comes out of your royalties. So I know how to explain it, but I'd rather you explain it to people about the returns in the book industry.
Exactly. So if you have your traditional publishing contract, which I'm a hybrid author, so I've published traditionally, I publish POD, and I've self-published as well. With that traditional publishing contract, it's going to say in your contract that maybe they're going to hold 25% reserves because they know about those returns. A book shipped is not a book sold. I don't care which path of publishing you choose. A book shipped is not a book sold, and your publisher's job is to make sure they work the industry so that your book is available, because they are counting on you to get people into the stores to buy the book. You are in a partnership. They are not just signing you on for a great book. They are signing you on for a great work ethic. It's
you cannot depend on the book. Exactly. You cannot depend on the publisher to sell your books for you. You still have to market, even if a publisher takes you on. You still have to market your books. You can't.
And they will be returned if they don't sell. And then that money comes out of your advance on royalties, which you may never get any more money. A lot of people, once they get that advance, you may never get paid again.
Yeah, or if you're self-published, then you just get a return and you get an invoice. You just get a return and you get an invoice. So Amazon, like I said, they return it. It hit differently because people say, Amazon does that all the time. It hit differently with me because I was a part of their DEI initiative, Black Business Accelerator program. So I literally had Amazon on speed that I could call and talk to my rep. I could book. They were helping me position myself. So it hit differently when you get in this DEI initiative for Black Business Accelerator program, and they position you to be successful, and they place their first order of so many copies, and then they return it within 30 days. It almost seems suspicious. Okay. So with those returns, it hits differently than with your traditional publisher, because your traditional publisher has to eat that. When you are self-published, when you are an independent publisher, you don't only have to eat that, you have to cut them a check. You have to cut them a check. Whether you choose destroy or you choose return, you're going to take a loss. You're going to take a loss. So please, if nothing else, a book shipped out is not a book sold unless it's going to a library. And I'm just a person. I operate in a no judgment zone, but also a no excuse zone, because I've been doing this almost 30 years, and I hear it all the time. Hashtag struggling artists, and I'm doing this and I'm wearing so many hats. You don't have to be. I was pregnant at 15, had my first child at 16, was in a domestic violence relationship for 7 years, got my own place when I was 17 in the hood. I will get up in the morning to go to school and see drug transactions. And when I come home at night, I'm doing my homework for college. I'm listening to people getting shot by guns. I finally get out of this relationship. And so I still manage to keep pressing through. So I have a low tolerance for excuses. I'm empathetic, I'm sympathetic, and I'm passionate with a whole lot of compassion, but not when it comes to excuses. There are resources out here for you to achieve your literary dreams, visions, and goals. I have my assistant on the chat. Hopefully she has dropped some of those resources in the chat, but especially if you can make it to the PubU 4-hour pre-conference workshop, I'm spending 4 hours dropping as many resources as I can. If you can't make it, you can go to my website and get the literary blueprint, which is how to build your book, how to build your book business. And then once you have that business built, how to either sustain it if you want to make a living as a writer, or if you just want to make money as a writer. Either way it goes, I have you covered, because there's no excuse, not no gatekeepers, not no DEI, not nothing. The only thing standing in your way from achieving said goals that you need to lay out is you.
Okay, well, that's a word.
Oh, that's a great way to end.
It's a great way to end. And Joylynn, we always need to give you more time. I forgot about that. So
I don't know why you didn't put her last.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, then we would have gone overtime. Anyway, the show would have been on late. So, Joylynn, thank you so much for your words and your frankness. And you always give us some information that we need. And I'm just so glad that you're still out here as a resource, as you say.
Yeah, and I'm out here because of you being a resource. I'm out here because of you being a resource, you knowing I exist, you knowing my voice, you knowing what I bring to the table, not the gatekeepers. I don't need them. I need you. Thank you. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Rhonda. That's what you're doing on this platform. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you.
That's our goal. Okay, well, we'll say good night. We need to bring on our final guest.
All right, good night, y'all.
Okay. All right, good night. She always has a lot to say. Because this is like a year between, and so, or over a year between, and so much happens. So anyway, we're bringing on our final guest. And she is with BK Royston Publishing. And as you all know, BK Royston is a friend of the show. And her name is Adriene Connor. And she has a book called When Out Isn't an Option. And I guess this is the subhead, Marriage Should Be for Keeps. So Adriene, thank you for being a guest on the show.
You're welcome.
I like your glasses.
Thank you.
Do you have a copy of your book handy?
I do.
Okay, so if you could show us the cover of your book.
Okay, so this is the cover right here.
Okay, and you got the wedding rings and the cross in there.
When out isn't an option, marriage should be for keeps. Okay, now see, let's just jump right in there, because there is somebody who is watching this show and saying, who are you to tell me I need to stay in a marriage where I don't feel respected, where I'm being abused, where I'm not getting what I need, why should I stay here? And what is your answer to somebody who would ask those questions?
Well, that question has been asked to me, and the name of the book is When Out Isn't an Option. Because believe it or not, people have come to me and they would say, oh, yeah, the name of the book is Out Isn't an Option. And I will politely tell them, no, that's not the title that God gave to me. God says that when out isn't an option. And the reason being is that God gives us an option to get out, right? Because the word option within itself means a right to choose. It's my option to stay in, or it's my option to stay out. And so I wrote the book for those that want to choose, not to exit on the ramp, right? A plan B. But if you want to stay in it, the book will tell you how to stay in it. But yeah, God does give us options.
Yeah, because God doesn't want us to be in abusive relationships. And adultery is also reasons for and some people stay even after adultery.
Right there. People don't realize that, but it does say that you can leave a marriage for adultery, marital unfaithfulness.
Abandonment is another. If someone abandons you, then you don't have to stay married to somebody who's not even there.
Yes. So. And that's why, once again, that's why I said when it's not an option, but then also my tagline that says marriage should be for keeps. Sometimes it is not always for keeps, but God would desire, that's God's initial plan for it to be for keeps. So it should, but sometimes it's not.
But no, you're right. Some people go into marriage for the wrong reasons. Maybe they're going into it because I can make more money if I'm married. Or they go in it because they don't want to be lonely. Or they go in it because they don't want that person to go anywhere else. There are so many different reasons.
Yeah. And sometimes all their friends are all getting married.
Not always be the best reason. Or maybe they really do love the person, but they haven't taken the time to get to know that person.
Yeah. Yeah. All of the above. And I believe that, when somebody gets married, let's face it, nobody get married and walk down the aisle when in the back of their heads they're like, I'm going to get a divorce, right? Nobody gets married for that reason. And I believe that so many people that heads toward divorce court, they love each other, right? Mm-hmm. But I've come to discover that love, a marriage, it's more than just love, right? Love should be, I got a chapter in the book, what's love got to do with it, right? And sometimes we love, but we don't love that 1 Corinthians 13 type of love. And so, yeah.
Well, it really, before getting married, it really goes back to being equally yoked. And so that's a key thing that a lot of people miss before they get married. Because, sometimes it's physical attraction or lust or whatever. Correct. But you really don't have much in common. You're not going in the same direction. You don't have the same ideas about money. And money is a big part of marriage. Yeah. How you spend it, how you save it, what are our do we have some rules for, if one person is doing all the saving and being responsible and paying the bills, and the other person sees their check, it's just, playtime or whatever. That's not going to work. Not long term, unless somebody is really long suffering. And you shouldn't be long suffering like that. So you have to have the same ideas about things, your values. Then when you have children, how are you going to, raise them? What are your ideas about child rearing? But money is probably the biggest obstacle challenge that people have. Yeah. Because if you don't marry somebody who has a similar, it doesn't have to be the same. But if one person is totally irresponsible and the other person is trying to be responsible, that is a recipe for disaster. Yeah. And having experienced that personally in my first brief marriage, that is hell on earth for the responsible person, which was me. Mm-hmm. So you have to have the same ideas. You have to say, and if you're a believer, you should be with a believer.
That's right.
It doesn't mean they're perfect. They don't have to be perfect, but they have to have a core set of values and beliefs.
And that's Bible too.
Yes.
And if I can interject there, I'm also like a SYMBIS facilitator. And I don't know if you all ever heard of SYMBIS, but SYMBIS, the acronym for that is Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. And so I do coach premarital couples, and I give an assessment, and the assessment does that. It will tell you your marriage type. It will tell you, hey, when we get married, what's our responsibilities? What are we going to do? How are we going to bring together blended families? It's a myriad of questions that is asked, and it's a 92% accuracy rate, right? And so that's something really good. And I find that, people, we spend so much money for the wedding, but how much time do we really invest on learning how to be married, right? Because the wedding is meant to be a one-time event, but the wedding is meant to be a lifetime event.
Yes.
Yeah, so we need to invest and learn how to be married.
A lot of people put all their energy into the wedding and none into planning the marriage and the life together. Yes. My daughter is getting married soon. On June 14th. Oh, wow. And he's a very nice young man. He's a believer. I really like that he came to our home and asked us for her hand. He really went old school, and he was sincere, and they make a good couple. So
good. Congratulations.
Yeah, and you want your daughters. I don't have any sons, so I have one child as a daughter. You want your daughter to marry somebody that loves her. Really, that's really very important. And loves God.
That's right.
God first, because if he loves God, there's some things he's not going to do.
Correct.
There's a certain way that he operates, and so and that loves your daughter, because a man being with somebody that doesn't love you or doesn't know what love is or whatever, that's a miserable existence.
Recipe for disaster.
It is. It really is. So what are some of the chapters in your book in terms of subject matter? Like, what do you cover in your book?
Well, I tell you, one of my favorite chapters that I have in my book is called "This Is Gonna Get Ugly."
Oh, is that the name of the chapter?
No, yeah, that's the actual name of it.
Okay.
And this is going to get ugly, because I believe that when people get married, we believe that, we're going to always stay in that honeymoon stage, and marriages and relationships don't just stay in a honeymoon stage, right? It weaves in and out of different stages. And so a lot of times we don't like to say the quiet part out loud, right? And the quiet part can be, okay, I want all the good without none of the bad. I want the ups, but I don't want the downs. I want the pretty, but I don't want none of the ugly, right? And so what do you do when ugly shows up, right? What do you do? How do you pivot from that place? Do you pivot at all? Do you just stay in a power struggle stage and allow your relationship to die in that stage? And so that particular chapter, it tells you, what do I do when my relationship is in the ugly phase, right? And so that's one of the chapters, and that will bring me to another chapter that I have that's called Hard Work. Okay, hard work. And so I don't know if you guys ever saw an old commercial with Dwayne Wade, right? It's a Gatorade commercial, and in that particular commercial, it shows how they're waking up before the sun comes up in the morning, and they have the screen on the scoreboard. They say when it is, and they say hard work, And so when they're waking up in the morning,
hey, that's my favorite cadence when I was in the Army.
yeah, hard work.
That hard work,
and they're singing, and they're saying work, hard work, and it showed them, they're waking up before everybody else wake up. They're doing exercises, they're doing push-ups and sit-ups and all of these things, because they know that if I'm going to excel in the sport that I love the most, I got to put in some hard work, right? And so that goes to say, without, if it's a career, if it's a marriage, what have you, we got to be willing to put in that hard work, because it don't come easy. And, we've all heard the song, it takes two to make a thing go right? And so we both got to put in that hard work for it to go well, because winning is hard work. And so that's a few of the chapters that I have in the book.
Okay. Now, what do you say to people who talk about a marriage, it should be 50-50?
Oh, no. 50-50, I don't know where that myth ever came from. I think, and that's in my book, actually. That's in my book, because 50-50, yes, it equals 100, but if I'm just putting in 50, that means that what's happening, what is going wrong by me holding back on that 50, right? And so I believe that marriages and relationships, they're not 50-50. They are 100-100. So I think that that's a myth to say 50-50, honestly speaking.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm saying both people should be putting in 100.
That's right.
You can't be sitting there measuring, well, did I do more than he did, or did he do more than I did? And you're right. There's different stages in marriage. And, you start off, in the honeymoon phase or whatever. And then once you have children, then you got to raise them. And that's a lot of years, depending on how many children you have.
Correct.
That's a lot of years that you have to divide your attention, so to speak. I mean, you have to, make sure that everyone's taken care of. But your spouse should still come first.
Yes.
And nowadays we have a lot of blended families.
Yeah, we do.
That can be a challenge for people.
Yes, absolutely correct. Yeah.
So, what led you to focus on marriage as a topic?
Well, in May, in a few months, in May, I will be married for 35 years. And so that was my initial inspiration, because of the complexities and the difficulties of marriage, right? And especially today, I believe that the institution of marriage is under severe attack, right? And so that's something that had me to start focusing in on marriages. And a lot of times, just like, we want to return on the marriage, but sometimes we're not putting in that investment, right? We're not putting in the investment. We're not doing the things that we should do. And so once again, when we put in that initial investment, then we can yield a return on our marriage. And so those are the things that inspired me to really write the book, because I remember when God gave it to me, I can remember going to the gym. And I was trying to get into a new exercise regimen, and I was trying to lift weights and do all of these things. And oh my God, it was so difficult. All I really wanted to do is put all my equipment back and sneak out of there and never come back, right? But from that, the Lord really began to minister to me, and God began to tell me, I looked over one time and I see this woman, and she's in her late 70s and she's pumping all these weights. And God began to show me, he said, she didn't start off like that. That was a process that she had to go through. But if you continue to go through that process, you'll become stronger. And so those some of the things that God just really inspired me to start writing a book. That if you keep on going in your relationship, if you keep pushing it, and if you keep pressing, you're going to get the desired results.
Now, I'm a little bit behind you. We've been married 32 years. It'll be 33 this September. So we got married in the same time period.
Yeah.
So, we got married in 92.
Okay. And I got married in 91. Yeah. But like I said, both people got to be willing to push. Both people, you can't have a one-sided relationship and just really think that it's going to work out. And so that's when we come back into that 100-100, not 50-50.
Right. Now, do you counsel married couples or couples who are about to get married?
I do. That's when I was telling you really about the Decembers. I counsel saving your marriage before it starts, and Decembers also allows me to counsel people they have saving your second marriage before it starts, right? And so, but I became a certified coach from the Center for Thriving Relationships. And so we have all types of nuggets and things like that, all kind of principles that people can really put into place to help your marriage and your relationships thrive. Yeah.
What is your, and I'm glad that you asked that question. And I think more people who are either thinking of getting married or maybe they're in the early stages of marriage, they need to know that every day isn't going to be easy. Every day isn't going to be a honeymoon.
Correct.
So what do you tell people who are like, I don't have to take this. This is too hard. I'm ready to walk away. How do you counsel somebody like that who's going through those struggles?
Okay, so like one thing I learned in the school that I went to get my certification, again, we talked about that honeymoon stage, right? Mm-hmm. And when a person is in that honeymoon stage, it's like you can't see the forest for the trees, right? They can do you all of these things, and you kind of turn your head and you look the other way because we bonding and we're falling in love and we like each other. But after that honeymoon stage, it comes the power struggle stage. That's the next stage. And so when the relationship gets into that power struggle stage, it's like you want your way and I want my way, right? And so we're bumping heads and we're bumping heads. And the sad part of that analogy, you all, of that truth is that so many couples will stay in a power struggle stage for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years until that relationship will just die out. And so in order for them to move to the next stage of that relationship, both couples have to ask themselves, both people have to say, well, what does this marriage or what does this relationship need from me that I'm not giving to it? And how can I make it better? And so when you start focusing on one another and we both focusing on ourselves to say, what does it need from me? Because it's easy for us to point our fingers at the next person and say, well, you're not giving me this and you're not giving me that. And so when both couples come to that conclusion that I'm gonna become the best version of myself, well, that's when a relationship moves to that next stage, which is the commitment stage. We can't make a commitment until we stop power struggling, right? And so that's what I would tell that person. Hey, have you really given it your all? Have you done some self-awareness that I'm looking at me and I'm not looking at you? Because a lot of times we don't like to see ourselves, right? We don't like to be that person that look in the mirror and say, you know what, you need to change this about yourself and you need to change that about yourself. And if both people do that, well, then you'll come out of that power struggle stage and move to the next phase of your relationship.
And that's a scary thing to be honest with yourself and say, I might be the problem. I'm looking at this other person and I'm pointing my finger at the other person, but there's 3 pointed back at me.
That's right. That's right. And once again, that self-awareness, are you aware that, you go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds flat? Are you aware of that? Are you aware that, your tone of voice when you're talking to me, tonality, all of that comes into play, right? And so once again, when everybody just take a good look at themselves and say, you know what, Adriene, you know what, you really need to change that about yourself. And that's what I like about the course that I took, because it pulls away you focusing in on that next person and you focus in on yourself, because at the end of the day, we cannot change nobody.
Right. We cannot change.
We can't change nobody, but you can change yourself.
And you can barely change a child, but a grown person can change. They are there. And in our final minute, a lot of people talk about communication in marriage, but what they really should talk about is listening. Because that is the missing element. Not just talking. You have to really listen to your spouse, your partner.
And that's another thing that I learned too, because there's such a thing that's called heart listening, right? I'm not listening at I'm listening for your heart. I'm looking beyond, I'm looking under what you're saying, right? And so when we listen with our heart, sometimes we'll stop coming to the place to where, because sometimes when we listen and when we're communicating, and we can be honest, sometimes we've been to the place to where I'm really listening to get some ammunition to come back at you.
Yeah.
But if we do heart listening and we look under and really get a sense and a feel of what my partner is saying, then we can communicate with one another better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Adriene, we're at the end of our time. Can you show your book cover one more time?
Okay.
And it's called When Out Isn't an Option. So marriage should be for keeps is the subhead. Thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you.
And thank you for counseling married couples and married couples to be to have the best relationship. And we did put the
link to your book. We put the link to bkroyston.com, which is where your book can be found. That is in the chat. So we hope that everybody will click the link and purchase this great book, because it sounds like there's some jewels in this book. And I'm not married, but I'm in a very long-term relationship that's headed toward marriage. So I'm looking forward to making sure that I take these jewels for myself so I can bring them into my marriage when it's time.
And the book is not just for married couples. It's for those that aspire to be married. It's for those that have been married and it went wrong, and now you want that other covenant relationship. So yeah, it's not just dedicated to married couples. Yeah.
Okay, well, have a great evening, and thank
you. You too. You guys too. Thank y'all so much. Okay, it's been fun.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, well, that's it for this week. We are wrapping up another show, and we will see you next Tuesday on another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson. I'm out for the night.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.